Welcome to another episode of Royal on Tour. Last time we left you on Holy Island in Northumberland. Today we take you from the beauty of the Scottish Kelpies all the way to the beautiful city of Chester. It was a beautiful tour of 2.5 hours along the coastline to the Helix car park, where we could stay the night for a reasonable price.
From Holy Island we drove further north towards the Scottish border in the direction of Edinburgh. And why Helix parking in Falkirk, nearby Edinburgh? Because there is the Helix Park in Scotland. You can spot 2 big horse heads. They are called the Kelpies. We could see this work of art from afar away. When it gets dark, these horses are lighted from the inside and have different colors. Some facts about these horse heads. They are 30 meters high and one horse head weighs 300 tons and consists of 900 stainless steel plates. The foundation on which they stand is 40 meters deep. Once at the Kelpies, our question was, what is a Kelpie really, or what does it mean? Once there, it turned out to be horses with a Scottish myth attached to them. The Kelpies are a monument to Scotland's horse-powered heritage. They are opened to the public in April 2014. As part of the project, the Kelpies have their own visitor centre, which stands alongside a newly developed turning basin and canal extension. This canal extension reconnects the Forth and Clyde Canal to the River Forth and improves shipping between the east and west of Scotland. It also includes the installation of several locks. From the Helix, we went to the west coast. By the way, for us the visit to the Helix Park was certainly one of the highlights of our round trip. It impressed us much more than we had expected. As said, we went to the west coast and find a place to stay in Troon. There we found a very nice spot with a view of the North Atlantic Ocean to spend the night next to a sawmill. Here, tree trunks were driven in by trucks and processed into planks in a continuous process that lasted 24 hours. Very fascinating to be able to see a small part of the process from a distance. So Rob,
Yes,
we are now driving in Scotland.
yes. Still on the left-hand side.
Yes. And how's the road conditions?
This part of the road is alright, but this is one of the better parts. You've seen very many very bad roads. Big ditches, big holes. Heb je lappendeken?
So that means there's a lot of work to smoothen the way a bit.
Yes.
But since we're driving a lot of back roads, that makes a little difference, I think.
Yes. The highway is pretty good.
Yeah. Probably we are a little bit spoiled in the Netherlands. With a lot of
Good maintenance.
yes,
I think that is here. The roads we drove so far. Not optimal.
bits and holes.
Yes.
So meneer, our first English, full English breakfast.
Full English breakfast, yes.
It was delicious.
Yeah.
Welcome to Chester. This is Chester.
Whether it is a touristy town like Chester or not touristy, anywhere, even in our own country, you will also find people this early in the morning who have spent the night sleeping without a roof over their heads, with a few possessions around them, sleeping on the street, in a porch or on a bench. During our trip, it struck us again how privileged we are that we are not homeless and can travel through the United Kingdom during our holidays.
What also surprised us during our walk to the city center was the many beautiful decorated signs.
Visiting Chester during our visit to England was a city we definitely wanted to visit. Very famous are the galleries with shops, restaurants, pubs and bars. When we saw the rows of Chester, we discovered that there is nothing like it in the world. Early in the morning, we took a walk along the medieval walkways that line the four main streets of the city centre, for a very special and surprising experience, taking in the highlights of a very small part of the city centre. What are the rows, anyway? Chester rows are a series of buildings in each of the four main streets of Chester in the United Kingdom, consisting of a series of covered walkways at first floor level, behind which are entries to shops and other businesses. At street level, there is another series of shops and other spaces, many of which are entered by descending a few steps. The Chester rows date back to the Middle Ages and were probably built on rubble left from the ruins of Roman buildings, but their origins are still being speculated on. In some places, the passage of the rows has been blocked by fences or new buildings, but in other places, modern buildings have incorporated the rows into their design. Underneath the buildings in the rows, underground cellars or crypts have been built. The crypts were made of stone, while most of the buildings in the rows were made of wood. Today, about 20 of the stone cellars still exist, but at the level of the rows, little of the medieval structure has survived. In the city centre of Chester, the East Gate clock on top of the East Gate is a prominent landmark in the city centre, and it is said to be the second most photographed clock in England after the Big Ben. Many of the buildings containing parts of the rows are listed, and some are in the English Heritage Archive. Most are shops, but there are also offices, restaurants, cafes and meeting rooms. The Chester Rows are one of the city's main touristic attractions. Chester Cathedral is a Church of England cathedral. The cathedral was formerly the Abbey Church of a Benedictine monastery. This memorial in Chester Cathedral is in memory of the soldiers of Chester who died or went missing in the First and Second World Wars. Since 1541, it has been the seat of the Bishop of Chester. Here in this church we found a scale model of the cathedral made from Lego blocks, including the stained glass windows. This Lego scale model is a fundraiser where you can donate a brick for £1. Because of the 1,000-year history of this church, £350,000 will be raised. The construction of this scale model will take about 30 months with the manpower of 50 volunteers.
The history of Chester covers almost 2 millennia and spans a broad period of British history between then and now. The city of Chester was founded by the Romans in 79 AD. It is a fortress known as Diva.
Outside it is 22 degrees, bright and shiny. Inside we decide to go to the viaduct on Ribblehead.
In search of the very famous railway viaduct at Ribblehead, we passed this railway bridge. It is one of the many bridges that are part of the railway link between Settle and Carlisle in Cumbria. The railway viaduct was built from 1869 to 1874 by more than 2,300 men and over 100 on which died on the job. This railway viaduct is 32 meters high and has a length of over 400 meters, with 24 arches and a very slight curve, making it the longest bridge of this railway line. The railway viaduct is located at the foot of the Whernside mountain, close to the river Ribble, from which it gets its name. Many people think that this is the railway bridge from one of the Harry Potter movies, but I am told that the railway bridge in Scotland was the decor of this.
the pier of Whitehaven.
After our visit to Ribblehead viaduct, we also heard that there is a beautiful aqueduct quite close by. This canal flows between Trevor and Pontcysyllte. That aqueduct is still in use for the narrow boats, so we went looking for this aqueduct. We first found the narrow boats, which were sailing in the Langon Canal. Following the boats in their channel, we found further on the aqueduct. We also discovered that you can hire a narrow boat here or take part in a canal cruise. This aqueduct was built in 10 years and completed in 1805. It is the highest aqueduct in England. It is 38 meters high and 307 meters long. With 18 arches, it spans the River Dee. The water inside the aqueduct is 1.6 meters deep, and the footpath next to the water is historically a towpath. We finish our visit to this aqueduct with tea and real English scones.
We wanted to spend the night at the waterside parking, a place we had found on Park for Night, but now there were signs saying no overnight parking.
We spent the night in Quay in Wales, on a car park. Quay is a town of about 1,200 inhabitants, built from 1439 onwards. It has many picturesque houses, pubs and restaurants, and a very nice sandy beach with clear seawater. In the meantime, we started looking for a place to stay for the night. This we found near a campsite at a railway station. Thank you for watching this episode. We hope you will find us again next time as we continue our tour through the last part of our trip in England.